I chuckled to see this on zerohedge.com. Toronto anti-capitalist pay-when-you-can cafe shuts down after just 1 year. Turns out that in Toronto, there's this leftist guy, and his name is Gabriel Sims-Fewer. Anyway, this guy is, from the rhetoric that I see in the article, completely rabid. And he thought, not only am I going to rage against capitalism, I'm going to start a cafe that operates on anti-capitalist principles, or as he calls it, quote, an anti-capitalist, anti-colonial cafe, shop, and radical community space on stolen land. Well, first of all, the land is stolen. You shouldn't start the cafe. You should give the land back. Anyway, he starts this cafe, and his principle of the cafe is pay when you can. So you don't have to pay when you receive the stuff. And the stuff here refers to coffee, for sure, but also radical art, books, clothing, jewelry, and tote bags. Well, as it turns out, many people were like, yeah, I'll take the stuff now. I'm not going to pay at all. And, basically a year later, this guy goes, he's too stupid to even recognize why his cafe is closing down, because the Marxist principle from each according to his ability to each according to his need doesn't work. It doesn't really fit with human nature. It doesn't really make any sense. If you tell people that they can have stuff for free, they're not going to pay. And they don't pay. Instead of saying, hey, listen, you leftists, you're scoundrels, many of you can't afford to pay, but you're not paying. No, this is what he says. Unfortunately, the lack of generational wealth/seed capital from ethically bankrupt sources left me unable to weather the quiet winter season or to grow in the ways needed to be sustainable long term. So the cafe has got to shut down. Now, the problem with the socialists here is that their whole mentality is messed up. They take something that is, to some degree, a legitimate principle, which is it's good to be able to help other people. But notice that this guy's not really helping anyone. He's not saying, listen, I'll use my resources, I will work hard, I will earn money, and then I will use that money to be generous to other people. He's not doing that. He basically says, let's see if we can create a community based on socialist principles. Now, it flashed my mind back, and some of you may go, well, what's the connection, Dinesh? But you'll see the connection. There was a prominent British socialist and feminist. Her name was Beatrice Potter Webb. And she was born into a wealthy family in Gloucester. In fact, her father was Richard Potter, a businessman. And her mom was Lawrencina Hayworth, the daughter of a Liverpool merchant. So she was born into a highly successful entrepreneurial family. And yet, instead of trying to understand how her father made his money, how the Liverpool merchant accumulated wealth, she made this sarcastic statement. She goes, I was born into a family that habitually gave orders. And she went on to say, every time I saw my father, he was giving orders. And then she said, I never saw him ever take orders. Well, dummy, the reason you never saw him take orders is that the orders he was taking was not from a boss, but from the consumer. In other words, if you're running a retail business or any kind of business, you are taking orders. When I make movies, I take orders. Who do I take orders from? Well, I think about the potential customer base that's going to go to the theater and watch the film. I think about the people who are going to go to Barnes & Noble and buy my book. And so if I think of a wacky idea that interests me, such as a review of Game 6 of the Fischer-Spassky World Championship in Chess 1972, I don't write a book on that subject because, quite frankly, hardly anyone will want to read it. Not even the two principals involved. Fischer, of course, is dead. Spassky is still alive, but not in good health. So the point about entrepreneurship is you take orders from the people who are ultimately buying your product. You have to empathetically imagine or envision what their wants and needs are and satisfy them. So if this guy in Toronto, Gabriel Sims-Fewer, paid more attention to what the customers in Toronto want, make a really good coffee shop, a really good ambiance, and people would want to pay, and his coffee shop would probably still be in business.